I want to share another quote with you on this train and to see what your thoughts on this quote. You talked about moment to moment changes, and this original moment shifts based on now, present, future, right? Because life is very nonlinear that way. One of my favorite quotes by Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, a very famous clinical psychologist, he talks about is life is comprised of what repeats. So get those repeated things right. And I think that quote embodies the moments that we're speaking about, or our ability to focus on mundane tasks, to do the small things right, because that small things will over time compound into something big that could be beautiful or detrimental. Do you have any thoughts on why is it important to get the repeated things right, to live moment by moment, because life is what repeats?
It is really repeat. People forget how automatically repeating they are. 6 o'clock, alarm goes, wake up, open eyes, get out of bed, go make coffee, right? So it's these repeats every week, every day. Sometimes it helps to bring people back to the mundane, because then it reminds people that no matter how overwhelming feelings you have, you're still doing the mundane. You still wake up in the morning, sad or happy. You still wake up and open your eyes and go, here I am. So sometimes it's bringing people back to these small moments of their lives is a way to ground people. So I think of it as grounding. So, in therapy, we have the grounding technique. We teach people, look around the room. What do you see? What do you hear? Because it's a way to bring people back to the moment, right? The mindfulness moment. And so same thing with the mundane, the routine, the repeat of everyday repeat. And so when we work with grief, sometimes it's the structure gives people a way to move through the grief. We call it moving through the grief, not, over or get over. I hate that term, get over it, right? It's really, life is always about moving through something, whether it's feelings or situation. You're just plodding through despite whatever comes around you. So years ago, I read the book called Chop Wood, Carry Water, and there's lots of other iterations since then, but it is about the laundry. I got to do the laundry. I got to do the dishes. I have to make my food, whatever the food is, or buy my food, or whatever, however way I get my food. And it's reminding people you have certain things you do for yourself to live. You drink water, you eat food, you do things. And if you could just do one thing, and in that moment, just focusing that moment. And over time, people begin to find comfort in those activities. So first we teach people, well, let's just keep the structure going. So a while ago, I worked with somebody who just lost their mother during the pandemic. And the one thing she said was really helpful was, I said, well, what's the one routine that you normally do that is most familiar to you? And she said, my mom and I always wake up and have coffee. I said, okay, so can you do that every day? Just keep that one thing every day. Just have your coffee. And if you want, you can have 2 cups. You can just leave a cup for your mom if you like, because again, that's your routine. And she said that was the most helpful thing to get her out of bed, to get her up in the morning, is I'm going to get up and do my thing. And it's the routine. So we teach people to do the most fundamental routine that they are okay with. And then we teach them to be in that moment of that routine and to be okay with themselves in that moment. So Rumi, there's this nice little quote from Rumi. And later on, I want to end with the poem from Rumi, the Persian philosopher. Close your eyes, fall in love, and stay there. So it's teaching people to be here, to just stay here in a moment. And if you want to fall in love with yourself, great. If not, that's okay too. But it's about teaching people to come back to something they do for themselves, something they do that they can find joy in. And then from there, then they can move to the next. So life is about moment to moment. And it's amazing the action. So this is where it's the other way around, right? We use action, behavior to help people connect to insight, the cognitive piece, and then the affective piece, the feeling, right? So first you do what you do. You do what you do for yourself. You love what you do for yourself. And then you have the insight. It's okay. I will continue to do what I do for myself. And then over time, it's like, oh, I still get up in the morning if I feel angry or sad. But I'm doing the same thing I'm doing. I have my coffee.
It's like the ultimate grounding mechanism.
Mm-hmm. It's a one thing or two things that they do every day. What is it that you do? And then what is it that you do that gives you joy? Or at least you feel like you're doing something for yourself. And then, of course, we expand it to exercise, self-care. So then we introduce the concept of self-care, right? But a lot of times, sometimes we can't introduce self-care too early. They don't call it self-care. If somebody is really suffering and I say, let's start with your self-care. What do you do for self-care? They're like, nothing. So it's too early. So this ties into, again, I think I'm still talking like a therapist, right? But it sort of ties into your quote of really to teach people to remember that it's just a day. You do this now. And what do you do the next thing? And then what do you do in the next moment? And okay, you've gone through your day. And are you okay now? Today? You didn't think you can get through today, but you did. But it is about slogging through one day at a time, slogging through one task at a time of life. And again, that's what being alive is. Back to it's that walking meditation, but it's every breath. And that's how we slog through life. So there's so many metaphors that we therapists use, right? And whatever works for our clients.